Hello and welcome to the Secure Retirement Method. I'm one of your hosts, April Schoen, and I'm so excited that you're here with me today because this is truly one of my favorite times of the year. I'm sitting here recording this today on January 2nd, so Happy New Year to you all. And, there's just something so refreshing about a clean slate. This chance for us to look back on the last year and think about what went really well last year, what are some things that we want to change, and then also plan for the future. And I love this time of year because it's really a chance for us to, dream a little bit, for my fellow dreamers out there, think about the person that I want to become and then the life that I want to create. Now, my husband loves to make fun of me this time of year because, listen, I am a planner and journal junkie. So usually starting in December is when I really start thinking about the new year, and I might get a new planner, some new journals. And so it's quite a little joke for us at home. But it is truly because I really feel like this is a great time for us to start again, right? Or continue on, right? Maybe it's not all about starting over. Maybe it's last year went so well and we want to build on that coming into the new year. Now, for me, I've already set some goals for this year, so I'm going to share those with you today. One goal is I want to read one professional development book a month. Now, you may not know this about me, but I love to read, but I love to read fiction books, okay? I totally can geek out, nerd out on some fiction books, especially in kind of the more fantasy sci-fi realm. And because I love to read fiction books, I actually find it hard to read those personal development books. So it's something that I have to be intentional about. I have to set time aside daily or weekly to make sure that I'm getting that done. So that's definitely one of my goals, is to read one personal development book each month. I used to do this and kind of got away from it last year. So it's something I'm going to bring back in 2025. One of the other things I'm going to work on is having some intentional time with my two boys. Now, my boys are 8 and 11, and my goal for this year is to spend some one-on-one time with them each month. And, that might sound like something really simple, but for me, what I find is that if I don't, again, schedule that out or set time aside for that, guess what? It's not going to happen. I'm going to get to April or May and say, you know what? I wanted to do this. I wanted to set time aside every single month for that, and it just hasn't happened. So I love having this as one of my goals, and then also at the same time going to my calendar to figure out when am I going to do that? Another goal that we have financially for this year is to save 20% of our income. So I'm going to talk more later about financial goals. Obviously, that's going to be the big part of what we're talking about today, is going to be on more financial goals. And one of mine is to make sure that we're saving 20% of our income. So I'm going to talk more about that and how to get to that place and where are you at and how to look at those things. And then we also want to replace the floors in our house. So those are just, some of the goals that we've had this year. And I want to talk about how you can create these meaningful financial goals for the new year. We're going to talk about how do you reflect on last year. I want to make sure you're celebrating your progress, because that's one thing I find people don't do enough of. And let's look for some areas that we can improve. And then I'm going to share some tips for how do you set some goals, and then sticking to a plan, creating a plan to achieve those. So before we dive into setting new goals, I want you to take a minute and look back at 2024. So first of all, did you set any goals for 2024? And how did they go? Personally, I like to keep a list of my goals each year, and I keep them on the Notes app on my phone. This way I can review them throughout the year. It's not something I want to set in January and then not think about again to December, right? So I want to make sure these are front and center of my mind, and then I'm looking at these throughout the year. And it's a great way to see your progress. I love kind of being able to check them off, putting a little X or a check mark next to them when they're done. And then I can also see what other areas that I need to work on. So if you haven't done that, make sure you've got them written down somewhere visible that's going to be easy for you to refer to. I also encourage you to celebrate your wins. Even if they're small, they're worth celebrating, right? So let's think about some wins maybe you had last year. Did you pay off a credit card? Did you save for a major purchase? Did you invest in your future? Give yourself some credit for these things that you've done. It's important to acknowledge that process, no matter how small it feels in that moment. And then also think about what were the challenges? What did not go as planned? Were there goals that you struggled with that you didn't quite achieve? And think about why didn't you hit those goals? Maybe they were unrealistic, right? Maybe we just set these really big goals in January last year that just weren't achievable. Or maybe we had some unexpected obstacles, or did something pop up, happen that was not on your radar that prevented you from hitting that goal? Or does our plan need to be tweaked one way or the other, right? So taking that time to reflect both on, what went well and what struggles you had, this is going to help you set more achievable, smarter, better goals for 2025. So after you've reflected on last year, let's focus then on setting some goals for the year ahead. And a great way to do that is by making sure that you're using, I love the SMART framework. If you're familiar with that, that's SMART, the SMART framework. This is where you make goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So I want to break that down. And I'm going to do that in just a minute, what that SMART framework looks like. But let me give you some ideas for some financial goals that you may want to consider. One, you may want to work on building an emergency fund. So if you don't have one already, an emergency fund where you have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved, then make that a priority. Set a specific goal. So first, you got to figure out what your expenses are on a monthly basis to know what you need for your emergency fund, but figure that out. How much do you need for your emergency fund? And then break that into monthly contributions that you can fit into your spending plan, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So one goal might be building an emergency fund. You may want to maximize your retirement contributions. So increase how much you're putting into a 401k or an IRA so that you can take advantage of some tax benefits or employer matches. Aim for saving a certain percentage of your income. We recommend clients save between 15 and 20% of their income. So another thing to look at is, hey, how much did I save last year? And not only how much did I save, but how much is that as a percentage of my income to know where I am in this, 15 to 20% range. And then thinking about for the next year, how do I increase that? So I remember years ago, my husband and I, we were saving 10% of our income, and then we wanted to get to 20. And let me just tell you, that seems like a very big, daunting goal. If you're saving 10 to get to 20, you're about doubling your savings, and it just feels, too big, right? It feels like you can't get there. So we did it in small increments. We started every year in January, increasing our savings by 1%. And then also when we got raises, we increased our savings then too. So we kind of got to like 12 and then bumped it up to 15. Anyway, it took a few years for us to get to that 20% number. But now that's like a non-negotiable for us. And of course, things happen and life happens. And I can talk more about that if you guys want. But I think it's important for us to look at, how much did we save? And then thinking about the next year, how much do we want to save? Do we want to increase our contributions? And where are we going to do that at, right? You might already be maxing out your retirement account. So we have to go look at some non-retirement account options. So increasing those retirement investment contributions. Eliminating debt. So think about if you've got credit cards, loan balances, really focus on paying off those high interest debts first. Interest rates are high right now, which is, good for savings accounts, money markets, CDs, but it's not so great for debt. So you might have some credit cards or a home equity line of credit or a personal, something that maybe even had like a low interest rate years ago, where now if you look at it, there's got some pretty high interest rates on them. So definitely look at your debt and work on eliminating that high interest debt. Another goal would be to diversify your investments. So look at your portfolio. And when I say your portfolio, I mean your overall portfolio, right? Your savings, your investments, your retirement accounts. Really think of everything all as like one big bucket and look to see, is your portfolio heavily concentrated? And if it is, you're going to want to work on creating a balanced portfolio that aligns with your risk tolerance, that aligns with your goals. You may want to consider reallocating into some different asset classes. For example, my husband gets company stock, and so we are always just too heavy concentrated on this one company stock, his company stock. And so it's something that we have to work on to diversify to make sure that we're not so heavily concentrated in that one company. So you want to look at, do I have any company specific risk? Do I have any industry specific risk? That might be like tech companies right now, right? So we want to take a look at this through that lens of how does everything work together in our retirement accounts and in our investments. Another goal you may have is to plan for a major purchase, right? So that might be a home renovation. Like I mentioned, we want to replace the floors in our home. That's obviously a big purchase, something that we have to work on, that we've been working on. It might be a family vacation, a new car. So we want to start thinking about then planning for these major purchases, setting a savings goal, and then a timeline to reach that. So now I want to go through and talk about, I'm going to break down these SMART goals. And again, that specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. And I want to use the example of, let's say that you wanted to save $15,000 by December. So the first thing we're going to do is we're making that specific. So a specific goal, it clearly defines what you want to achieve. So instead of just saying, hey, I want to save more money next year, you say, I want to save $15,000 by December for, what's it for? Is it for your emergency fund? Is it for a big trip? Is it for a home renovation? Make sure it's clear and it's focused. The M is for measurable. So break down your goal into smaller, trackable steps. So for $15,000, that's $1,250 per month. That's $1,250 per month. And so you could track that progress every month and see if you're on target, right? And then the A is for achievable. So this is like, is that achievable? Is saving $1,250 a month realistic? You're going to want to look at your spending plan, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. But we got to figure out, like, is that achievable? If it's too tight, then we might have to adjust the amount or extend the timeline to make that goal more achievable and attainable. Relevant. The R is for relevant. Your goal should align with your values and priorities, right? So saving that $15,000 for an emergency fund, that might give you the peace of mind to have a fully funded emergency fund. Right? Or it might be for that big trip. So it's going to help you create those lasting memories with your family. Right? So I always think about like, why? Why do we want to do that? What's our goal and why is that important to us? So that's how you make it relevant. And then time bound. That's the T, is time bound. So you want to set a deadline. This is going to create some urgency, some accountability. In this case, it's December, right? So having a specific timeline helps you stay focused and on track. So when we think about setting these goals, one, make sure that you're aligning them with your values. So whether it's financial security, family, travel, make your goals reflect what's important to you. Two, write them down. I know it sounds silly, right? We hear that all the time, but write them down. Studies show that writing down your goals makes you more likely to achieve them. And then keep them somewhere visible, right? Where you can see them, like in a journal or planner like I do. You could also keep them on your phone. Like I said, I have the Notes app on my phone, and I actually can go back and see goals for the last several years on my phone. And then number three is you're going to want to review these regularly. So schedule monthly or quarterly check-ins to track your progress and adjust as needed. Sometimes, depending on our financial situation, we've got to have like regular reviews. Like maybe it's even like weekly check-ins or monthly check-ins, right? If there's something that we have to really stay on top of. That might be if you are struggling to stick with your spending plan or you're struggling to pay off debt. That might be something that we need to review on a more regular basis. So we really just kind of figure out what's going to work for you and like when do you want to check your progress. and make any sort of adjustments that you might need. But I'd recommend at least quarterly. Like, don't set a goal in January and then don't look at it again to December, right? The likelihood of you hitting that is slim to none. So I would suggest doing like a quarterly check-in. So now that you've set some goals for the new year, the next step is to create a plan to achieve them. And this involves 3 key steps: reviewing your current financial situation, creating a monthly spending plan, and then scheduling those regular check-ins to track your progress and make adjustments. So let's dive into each one. So before you can make a plan, you've got to know, where are you today? So think of this as like creating a baseline. It's like a starting point on your financial roadmap. And when you do this, you're going to want to take a stock of your income. How much money is coming in each month? Think about your salary, side hustles, rental income, other sources. Expenses. What are you spending each month? So many of my clients, when we first meet, they don't know, right? I hear things like money just comes in the front door and goes out the back door. Or, hey, at this stage of our life, the kids are grown and the house is paid off and we just, we don't have to pay attention to that. And that's okay. You don't need a budget. I'm going to talk again about a spending plan in a few minutes, but you want to at least have a rough idea. It doesn't have to be exact down to the penny, but like we just need to have a rough idea about what we're spending each month. And really, we really want to break that down if we can into essentials, like what are the kind of the bills, so to speak, savings, and then discretionary spending. We want to know how much have we currently saved, right? How much do we have that emergency fund saved and set aside? How much are we putting towards retirement? How much are we putting towards other goals? What are our investments? Are they aligned with our long-term goals? Do you have a diversified portfolio? Sometimes, or I should say a lot of times, I meet with new clients who have an account that they haven't looked at in years. And it's just kind of been sitting there doing its thing. And that might be really good. That might be really bad. A lot of times because the stock market has done so well in the last few years, these accounts they're not in line with where we want to be. They're going to be way more growth focused and too concentrated on stocks than where we really want those accounts to be. And it's just because we haven't taken the time to look at them and rebalance. So definitely look at your investments and see, are they aligned with your long-term goals? And so by reviewing these areas, you can identify gaps or opportunities. For example, maybe you're spending too much on discretionary items. Maybe you can increase your retirement contributions. So understanding where you are today is going to help you make those informed decisions for the future. Now, step 2 is to create a monthly spending plan. I like to think of this, I like to think of the spending plan rather than a budget, because a spending plan isn't meant to be restrictive like a budget is. It's about being intentional, right? It allows you to be intentional about how and where you want to spend your money. So it actually empowers you. And so here's how you build your spending plan. You're first going to start with your essentials, right? Cover your basic needs first: housing, utilities, groceries, insurance. Then we also want to allocate for savings. You've always heard that line of pay yourself first. Well, it's the same thing here. You want that to be a line item on your spending plan. So set aside each month, right? Whether that's that emergency fund, retirement, another financial goal, like we mentioned earlier. Again, right? If the example is you want to save $15,000 this year, then your spending plan should allocate that $1,250 each month to savings. And then once essentials and savings are covered, then allocate funds for discretionary spending items: dining out, entertainment, hobbies, right? Your spending plan can help you stay on track, but it's also, again, while enjoying life, it's not about being restrictive. I always encourage you to include the fun things in your spending plan. And if you realize your plan is too tight, then you just need to adjust your goals or your spending to create balance. And again, always make sure that you include the fun things, whatever that is for you: eating out, hobbies, entertainment. Like if It's just not realistic to make it so restrictive that you can't stick to it. And the third step that you want to do is you want to schedule some regular check-ins. So goals, they're not a set it and forget it kind of thing, right? Life happens, things change. Is why these check-ins are so important. So I'd recommend at least setting a time every 3 months for you to revisit your goals and review your progress. So I would say put time on the calendar or a reminder. You need some way to know hey, I need to check on my progress, and ask yourself, am I on track to meet my goals? Do I need to adjust my spending plan or savings targets? Are there new priorities or challenges that I need to account for? And flexibility is key here. Don't be afraid to tweak your plan. Maybe you had an unexpected expense or an income change. Adjusting your plan isn't failure. It's just part of the process. And these regular check-ins are going to help you keep aligned with your objectives and help you make adjustments. It's really going to help you kind of stay on course. So, creating a plan to achieve your financial goals is all about intentionality. By reviewing your current financial picture, building a spending plan, scheduling regular check-ins, you're setting yourself up for success. And remember, progress is empowering. It puts you in control of your financial future. So before we wrap up, I want to just recap what we've covered today. Reflect back on last year's wins and challenges. Take time to acknowledge your progress. Identify areas where you can improve. Celebrate even the small wins is super important. Understand your challenges so that you can set better goals for this next year. Set SMART goals for 2025. Use that SMART framework to create goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Having clear and actionable goals makes it easier to stay focused and track your progress. And then review your financial picture and create a plan for the year ahead. Start by assessing your income, your expenses, savings, investments, and then build a spending plan and regular check-ins to keep yourself on track. This is going to help you stay intentional about your financial decisions throughout the year, not just thinking about them here in January when we're all gung-ho for the new year. So the start of this new year is really a great time for you to take control of your financial future. Remember, small, consistent steps today can lead to big results by the end of the year. Whether that's paying off debt, saving for a dream vacation, investing for retirement, the key is to start now and to stay committed. I know it can seem big and daunting sometimes, but remember, no matter where you're starting from, progress is what matters most. So, if you're ready to make 2025 your best financial year yet, I'd love to help you get there. So whether that's creating a retirement plan, building wealth, tackling financial challenges, we are here to help and guide you. I'd recommend, if you're interested, to schedule a consultation with me or join one of our upcoming webinars for more tips and strategies. You can go to our website, which is curryschoenfinancial.com, to get started. And don't wait, here we are, the new year still. So take that first step towards securing your financial future today. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. I hope this episode inspired you to reflect, plan, and take action for your financial goals for the year ahead. If you found this helpful, please subscribe, share it with someone who could use a little motivation as we get started here in 2025. Here's to all your financial success. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.
This promotional information is not approved or endorsed by the Florida Retirement System or the Division of Retirement. Neither Guardian nor its affiliates are associated with the Florida Retirement System or the Division of Retirement.
This material is intended for general public use. By providing this content, Park Avenue Securities, LLC, and your financial representative are not undertaking to provide investment advice or make a recommendation for a specific individual or situation, or to otherwise act in a fiduciary capacity. If you'd like additional information about our services, you can visit our website at curryschoenfinancial.com, where you can call our office at 850-562-3000. Again, that number is 850-562-3000. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by Park Avenue Securities, Guardian, or North Florida Financial, and opinions stated are their own. April and John are registered representatives and financial advisors of Park Avenue Securities LLC. Address 1700 Summit Lake Drive, Suite 200, Tallahassee, Florida 32317. Phone number 850-562-9075. Securities products and advisory services offered through Park Avenue Securities, member of FINRA and SIPC. April is a financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, New York, New York. Park Avenue Securities is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. North Florida Financial is not an affiliate or subsidiary of Park Avenue Securities or Guardian.
7492353.1 expires January 2027.